Alright, let's talk about Gamer the Movie. Set in a dystopian future where real human beings are controlled by greasy nerds sent out to die and do the nasty from the directors who brought us Crank, Gerard Butler of stereotypical badass fame stars as the prisoner Cable, fighting to survive a real-life blood sport broadcast to the world as the hot new esport, all while being controlled by some douchey 17-year-old kid in his futuristic gaming hub. Now, take a guess how I found out about this movie. Would have been a few years ago now. I was entering my edgy teen phase, getting into Call of Duty and all of the online shooter games, getting interested in guns, and I even asked my dad to take me shooting one time, which, red flag right there. But if I recall correctly, my friends and I rented this for my 14th birthday and watched it together. And when you're at that age, it doesn't matter if the movie is good or not, as long as there's tits, ass, guns, violence, and political commentary about billionaires brainwashing the public trying to take over the world through big tech. And even though this movie came out in 2009, it's still as relevant to talk about today than ever, so let's check it out. Starting development in 2007 as Game, and then Citizen Game, holy shit, could you imagine if they stuck with that title? The cringe is unreal, and we haven't even started yet. Gamer released in September of 2009 and was met with a poor reception, failing to make back its budget at the box office, which is surprising given that this feels like a big budget action flick with, at the time, a quite relevant topic. I mean, it's generic as all hell, but how bad could this possibly be? The premise of the film is that Dexter, the Elon Musk Gates of this future, developed these tiny nanites which replicate and replace brain tissue that allows them to be played as an avatar within the video game universe. The first big one was Society, and shit, we're already in deep water here. I've got to love all the details. I like a movie where I can just pause and take in everything on screen. This concept is quite surreal to think about, though the idea of a real-life Sims game is in no way original, especially when this movie came out. It's in similar vein to Surrogates, starring Bruce Willis, based on a comic series where humans leave the home as robot versions of themselves, allowing them to do whatever they want with no consequences. It's an eerie future that I imagine someday we might actually step into. On the flip side of that, however, back in Gamer, is Slayers, a deadly tournament within the overcrowded prison system which grants freedom to the inmate who survives 30 rounds of high-impact modern warfare, with the one catch that they're being controlled by douchey teenagers who only care about the things that teenagers care about. So, as a foundation, I think it's really strong. You know, we've got two very contrasting worlds of a Battlefield game and a VR chat, and waiting to see how these two genres will ultimately combine is intriguing, as Cable, the longest surviving prisoner, tries to break free from the game to help save his wife from selling herself to the cruel virtual world of Society, so that they can find their missing daughter. And at the top of the pile is Dexter, the creepy bazillionaire guy of the future who quite literally is the puppet master for the entire world, through his incredible medical and technological breakthroughs, as well as, more importantly, how they've been marketed towards consumers. Really let that sink in for a moment. The late 2000s and the start of the 2010s was the biggest leap forward humanity has ever taken towards ultimate connection, thanks to the rise of smartphones and having internet access at all times. Still to this day, we are still the slaves of Amazon and social media, and hell, we're currently facing times where it is more realistic to sell your body online to strangers than it is to go out and get a real job, because the real world that those jobs are in is so beyond fucked for our entire generation. So this apocalyptic digital future narrative may feel tired and played out through fiction, but is actually more reality based in this day and age than was even imaginable when the film released. Now look, I don't want to get up on my soapbox and preach or anything like that, but I do just want to really emphasise the fact that I find this topic incredibly interesting. You know, much like Microsoft's Home of the Future, any sort of prediction for a time beyond our own is always such a fascinating landscape for storytelling. Yet, the future that we're seeing here is only 10 years away from us now, which is where some of that almost horror element comes into it. Set in the year 2034, we're only a decade or so away from this at the time of making this video. Drop a comment if you're watching this in 2034. Looking at some of the tech in this movie, it's laughably predictable of course, with the full 360 projected displays, a literal nest to play your iToy games in, and, well, now I know where they got the idea for Microsoft Kinect. And look, I'm saying this as a fan of casual motion control BS. It's dumb fun, but of all the things I've tried firsthand over the years, from VR and the Wii, the Virtuosphere shit show, yes, I have actually done this and it sucks ass. This nerdy bitch's setup would be so gay.
Gay, tardily gay.
Man, nothing has changed. Look at this hub. Could you imagine porn inside this thing? You'd be there getting down and dirty and some poor guy would be out on the battlefield getting shot to pieces while dry fucking the scenery. On that note, I really appreciate the attention to detail by having human NPCs placed around the world, forced to be lifeless vessels, fully aware of the atrocities going on around them without any willpower to escape. It creates a very surreal environment, and these war scenes are shot really well with a lot of practical effects on top. It's just a shame that this was the peak of black and white gaming, so it looks like dog vision for most of the time. The addition of the static, glitchy effects is also quite distracting. I understand that they wanted to convey a sense of detachment. In fact, one of the key discussion points within the film is ping and the lag between a player's inputs and the human avatar reacting being life or death. Seriously, sitting and watching all these grown-ass men who grew up with Atari and Mario Brothers explaining latency and all that lingo? It's kind of hilarious. Now I know how my granddad felt when I had to teach him how to use his TV remote. And like, if they have all of this tech to replace the brain with microchips and virtual reality motion controls, why does this connection suck so much dick? It's a weird and difficult balance that the movie struggles with, trying to appeal to its key demographic while also insulting their intelligence and lifestyle at the same time. Never a good combination if you ask me. Especially when fucking Ludacris, the leader of this Watch Dogs hacker group, start infiltrating the system to offer the kid playing cable with some mods for the game. If he is modding inside of an online game, then he should be banned. Not to mention, this is being broadcast live to the entire world. How has no one arrested this bastard? That said, I do love all of the dumb hacking visuals. The CGI on this film was done on a shoestring budget of around $1 million, which is insanely low for a movie of this proportion. So I get a good laugh going from a scene like this to a hacker scene that looks like they're using a Vectrex from 1982 to hack into someone's memories. It's so good. Man, if I could put mind control nanites into people's brains and hack their willpower like we see in this movie, just imagine how much my Patreon would pop off. Yeah. You can find my Patreon link in the description. I will say that Gamer actually does a good job of conveying how it feels to leap into a new immersive generation of video games. But then, on the other hand, it can be so bombastic at times that you can't even look at it. Our brain isn't given enough time to consume all of the detail. And sometimes the screen is so dark that instead of staring into Terry Crews' warm, loving eyes, I'm staring back at myself in the reflection on the TV screen. So, yeah, it's a mixed bag. Also, Terry Crews is here, of course, doing Terry Crews stuff.
New high score!
For all of the good work they've done building up the logic and backstory, there simply isn't enough time for them to tell the story thoroughly enough, in my opinion. It's a constant jump back and forth between plot points while new things are introduced for a brief moment and then dropped again. I think if they'd taken just one or two of the story elements and focused them a bit better, that the film wouldn't feel so dated watching it back. The Sims society concept alone is enough for a film, and the political commentary on human rights and ethics, that shit would be kinda interesting. But as soon as it starts to get into viewing a person's memories of them being the test dummy for the nanite mind control, and that the main villain has their daughter for some damn reason, it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Take me back to the retro futuristic nightclub scenes and the amusing virtual reality stuff. Unsurprisingly to nobody, the real world inside of a movie called Gamer is the least interesting part. The graphics suck there just as hard as they do in the game world anyway, and as much as I always love a good boss fight in a movie, by the end, this experiment just feels hollow, which is such a damn shame. I do want to praise the initial concepts, the presentation, the actual work that went into the film with real locations, practical effects, and a solid cast of actors, but despite all of that, it simply doesn't land because it tried to do far too much on a limited runtime and a limited budget for a concept as far-reaching as this. Video game-based movies are still a thing that they're doing all these years later, and it's a genre that, despite still being a bit cheapening of both cinema and video games as a medium, Hollywood has at least gotten better with it, hitting a stride in the animation area while still trying to land on its feet within a real-world setting. Sadly, Gamer's focus on the lame 2010s online humour is one of its strongest qualities in the end, making this an average film best enjoyed with friends, taking this time machine back to the past of a not-so-distant future. It's fine, I guess. It's nothing all that special, but it does hold a special place in my heart, semi-ironically at the very least, given that I watched this with my gaming mates when it was new, probably after a long session of Modern Warfare 2. I have such a love-hate relationship with this film, much like my relationship with the term gamer. Let me tell you, after this whole video, I am so sick of saying that damn word. I'm just not a fan because of all the cringe connotations and stereotypes that come along with it, but at the same time, there's just no denying the piles of evidence that I am also a gamer. And I hate it! But I guess you can't deny fate. So until next time, gamers, I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, remember to share with your friends on social media, and remember that Patreon link is in the description. I'm Square Eye Jack, and I hope you have a great fucking day. Thanks for watching.